Okay, let's begin our demonstration part of this training session. Let me point out our meta recorder, which is the adapter I mentioned during our our training session earlier. Our meta recorder is attached to the CRM system. In this particular demonstration, we're using Oracle CCNB 2.5 version. We have a freeform field where we're going to type in a standardized type of name. So I'll use SS for start service, residential, new customer, and this will be run number one. As you hover over the start recording button, it changes color to blue. Once I click it and move away from it, you know that this recorder is actually active because the finish recording button is actually flashing. Okay, so let's begin. As I mentioned, we are going to start service for a brand new customer. I'll type in a name, start and new, something to easily identify this particular business process. These days, customers typically have cell phone numbers. So I'll just enter in some random numbers for a phone number. Same thing with an SSN. And voila. At the bottom, we're going to add an account and start service. And as I mentioned, this customer class is residential. Save. As expected, the system has created our new person and created a new account for us. Now we have navigated to the Start Stop panel, where we are going to put in, we'll just say tomorrow's date, the start service, a premise. I just so happen to have a premise that I've prepared for this demonstration. I'll use the unique ID assigned by the system, start service, scroll down and click our start button. As the system saves and changes screens, our recorder is capturing each one of those as separate steps in the process that I'll demonstrate a little bit later. Who is the start being requested by? Myself. In this particular CRM system, it has CIS divisions. Our particular location is California, and we are starting an electric residential. I know just from working with this particular system, I need to select a start option. Now my SA information is displayed below what will be created after I click this start button. Voila. Now the system has updated itself and it tells me that I have a pending start at this particular premise for this particular date. I'll toggle back over to the right side in our dashboard, our handy dandy button that has been blinking for us. I'll finish recording. Now we have confirmation. The test plan template has been saved to EDMS. I'll go ahead and acknowledge that. But with that being said, I'll come on over to EDMS. Let me navigate to the home button. In order to look at all of your test scripts, any new recordings or existing recordings that you have, we go to the bottom right panel under the administration section, meta configuration. As I mentioned earlier in our training session, this training is about meta. So I'll click on the meta configuration, our test scripts, the top button, and as we can see, here is our unique test plan template name that I used. All of your test scripts will be sorted in date creation descending order, meaning the latest test script template that has been added to the system will be the very top. I'll click on our new test script and let's give it a better descriptive name. Start service. As you can see, I have typed something in very similar. Start service residential, new customer. Save. Now, let's take a look at our different unique steps that were captured by Meta. Our first step, as I mentioned, was person. We'll put create a person. Our second step was to start service premise selection. Our last step was to start service premise confirmation. Voila. Now we have very good descriptions for each one of the steps that were recorded. This will be key later on when we want to look at our test results. So let me toggle back over to step 1. Just a high-level view of what the system captured. This is the XML that is working behind the scenes that Meta will send back to your CRM system whenever we want to perform the automated testing. Each one of these steps captures all of that information. Now we see this special data looks like a query. It's called a using query. Earlier in our training session, I mentioned predefined conditions and the system trying to find data very similar to what we are working with. Here is an example of exactly how the system determines what account ID or a premise to find, which is similar to the data that we are working with. Now that our test script template has been updated with some very good descriptions, I've given you a glimpse of the behind the scenes information that Meta has recorded. Let's go over to our predefined conditions. In our predefined conditions, we see our test plan template name, which is automatically created by Meta. We see the expanded view of the system looking for account, premise, service point information. All of these queries will aid Meta in finding like customers. Once again, let's give this a better description. We'll use this that I've already predetermined. Start service residential, new customer, PDC. Okay. If we wanted to make any changes, our query builder allows us to easily manage and modify any of the values that we feel, okay, well, we may want to change something for future processing. We give you that ability using the query builder. Before any test can be performed, we have to navigate and create a test profile. Test profiles allow us to contain one or many different test scripts. Okay, now we have navigated to our automated test profiles. In here, we need to create a profile template. So we'll stick with a similar type of naming convention. Yes, residential. Okay, and let's give it a good description. So service residential profile. Save. Okay, now I am going to include one or many test scripts, but for our demonstration, I'm just going to select one. The very first thing we need to determine is which environment are we capturing this recording from. 2.5 CCNB. Here's our test script template. Inherit previous data. I'll go over that a little bit later in a separate demonstration. Our source, where are we grabbing this information from? A development environment. And the profile that we're going to use. The snapshot profile allows us to tell the system, EDMS, Meta, what information to grab whenever we do find a like account. So our profile can retrieve everything about an account, the premise, service point, service agreement, bills, etc., etc. At the bottom, we tell it which predefined condition to link this particular profile with. Well, here's the one. It's automatically selected for us. I'll add that line item. Save. Now we are ready to perform our test submission. So let me navigate to the home button. Automated test submission is contained under data management. As you can see, we have three different steps in order to submit this automated test. We will select from the drop-down a profile template. As you can see, here is our good description that we gave it. The target, where we want to perform this automated test. The data tag. This allows us to find our data a little bit easier once replication starts. So we'll give it a very short description. Start service new customer 01. The selection size. If we wanted to if we wanted to find more than one account, the selection size allows us to do that. If we wanted to perform a test on 3 or 5 different accounts, the selection size allows us to do that. Of course, we're going to replicate, so that is defaulted. Next, optional override parameters. This screen is blank for our demonstration. But if we wanted to use different values for any of the fields that I showed you the XML earlier, they would be displayed on different rows here. For example, if we wanted to use different dates, we can override the date that we populated, which is tomorrow's date, and separated by commas. Next, processing option. If we were processing multiple accounts or if we had multiple test scripts, we probably would want to use more than one thread. But since this is just a single account, we'll stick with one thread. Let me finish submit. Now the system has automatically navigated us over to the batch job monitor, where we can monitor the status of our batch that was submitted. As you can see in the very beginning, it's in a pending status, and it gives us the test process ID, which is a unique number automatically assigned. Let's refresh. It found one account as we specified as the sample size. We can closely monitor by navigating over. Now we're able to see, as I mentioned earlier, green. Green is a good thing. That means each one of these steps has passed our processing. Our impact analysis is a positive result. Create person. Here is the time it took. 2 milliseconds, 2 seconds, no seconds to select the premise, and then just 1 second to start service. By highlighting, right-clicking on the iteration, we're able to view the snapshot details. This gives us a glimpse of what was created in the background. This is the new account that was created for our process. The person ID, and the name, which I gave it. The pass-fail summary. Earlier I mentioned action types that are being performed by the system. As you can see, the very first step, I know you probably don't know exactly what each one of these service names are, but those are the programs that run in the background on your CRP. The first one was an add function. These last two are the start-stop program, and they are considered change actions within the system. We have our pass, as we already noticed using the visual aid with the colors. All three of these steps are passes. Performance metrics. This is something brand new that we've added to Meta, which will allow us to see how long each step took. This comes in handy when we want to retest this scenario, which can be easily accomplished by going up to the quick actions, and here is retest. So let's quickly recap what we have learned. We have seen the script recorder, the meta adapter within our CRP system, data selection rules, the predefined conditions that were highlighted, and all of the different information that was captured to tell us how to find another account or a premise similar to what we used during our script recording. Then we navigated over to the execution of the script. Now we have seen the impact analysis report. Our report is a positive result. As I just mentioned, just for performance metrics, let's retest so that we can see if anything changes in time. Alrighty, Just like before, the system navigates us over to the batch job monitor. Let's click refresh. It's already complete. As you notice, everything is still green. Iteration 2. Iteration 2 tells us this was the second time we have performed that particular test. Let's look at our performance metrics. Iteration 2 is highlighted in green. Okay, I have refreshed. Now all 3 steps are complete. We look at our performance metrics. Iteration 2, which is in blue, we can see the second step was faster. The third step, however, we ended around the same amount of time, but that's okay. We know that there wasn't any slowness reported. Alrighty, now that you've seen a single test script execution, let's add to our profile. Let's say, for example, your business wants to charge some sort of adjustment for a new customer starting service. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to add an already recorded financial transaction, an adjustment on an account. So let's go to our profile. We're going to add another test script. As you can see, the system automatically increments by 10. Our environment type, the template that we want to use. As you can see, we keep with a certain standard. This stands for financial transaction, residential adjustment, and it's a calculated adjustment. I'll go ahead and select that. We are going to inherit the previous data. Because we have created a new customer, an account, person, all of that has been generated. We're going to tell the system we don't need to use anything separate. Let's inherit the previous data from our first test script template. Our source template is development, and our snapshot profile is account V master. Add this line item, save. As you notice, the inherit data is marked yes. So there are no extraction parameters needed because we are using the previous data. Alrighty. You see I used the context button. I didn't even click the home button. This is another quick way to navigate to any particular panel within EDMS. So I'll go to data management and select automated test submission. We'll go to our profile template, select residential profile, which we just updated. Our target is dev, and let's say SS ADJ 01. We'll stick with just one account. There are no override parameters for either one of these test script templates. So this is blank. One thread is all we need. Submit. I'll Okay, just like before, it found one record that we can use. Now let's use our navigation link. As you can see, the create a person is already complete. That add function is done. We refresh and we can see the system is completing each one of these steps. Because we have combined two different templates into one profile, now it shows 6 different steps. There are 3 different steps within the adjustment creation, as notated here. As you're following along, we already know so far so good. Everything is green. The gray indicates it is in a pending status. Sometimes the first time we run any type of test script template, it takes a little bit more time to cache the results for faster processing the next time that test script template is executed. So no need to worry about the time that it is taking to create this particular adjustment. It's just a matter of, oh, wow, this is perfect. Now we are able to see an error that was generated in the end. Now, of course, this is something that we have somewhat foreseen. When we look at any information, we can view the snapshot details. We can see that an adjustment was created. Here's our adjustment information, and right now it's in a status of 30. What is our error? It's a concurrency error. In order to make sure that we were able to display the different colors, we went ahead and made sure that we could demonstrate what red looks like and how to identify an error. Now we're going to go ahead and update the system behind the scenes so that we can retest this particular scenario and show this can actually be green. Alrighty, we have seen the concurrency error. So now let me show you how we manipulated this particular service. I'm going to go to that particular test script. It's an FT residential. Enter third step. Anytime we have concurrency errors, we know that the system is complaining about the changes happening within the system. There are version numbers within your CRM system. As you can see, version 3 is number 3 because this was the third change, the third step in the process. And we had manually set version 4 to 0. I'm going to manually change this back to a 3. Save it. I almost forgot, my fault. This is also where we can override any type of value. So if we wanted to use an absolute value, ignore this particular field, use a pattern. Pattern comes into play when it comes to social security numbers, financial information related to a business, the FIN, as I like to call it, the FAME, Federal Employee Identification Number, or phone numbers. You can type in a pattern and the system can automatically scramble any set of numbers using a pattern. Threshold we haven't used. User input parameter. Once we select user input parameter on that second step, it allows us to, one, manually type in a set of values separated by commas, or if it is a lookup field, we can allow Meta to find the possible values. But for this particular test case, we're not overriding anything. We just needed to change it from a 0 to a 3 to get around a concurrency error. We'll save that map field. Now, let's go back to our test process. Where we are going to retest. Just like before, we are on our batch job monitor. I'll refresh. As expected, our record was found. We'll click on our hyperlink to take us over to the impact analysis that is being performed. Iteration 2. Our test is complete. Everything is green. See, we went from a failed test to now a passed result. Let's look at our summary. These are all of the different service programs performing on the system. The add and change events, the status, positive for pass. Let's look at our performance metrics. Wow. Look at that roller coaster ride. But we can easily see iteration 2. Pretty similar. Next part, processing was faster for create a person. So with the retest, we're able to look at the performance metrics and compare run 1, iteration 1, with iteration 2